I have covered a number of AMD Radeon GPUs here over the last year or so that offer great value for money when it comes to gaming. However, one card that has always somehow dodged me was the high-end AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX model. This is one of AMD's high-end GPUs. It isn't as powerful as the RTX 4090, but it doesn't want to be. Instead, this card falls just below the RTX 4090, but at the same time is cheaper and smaller too. The AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX is the most powerful consumer GPU you can get from AMD, but how relevant is this GPU in 2024? Gigabyte sent over the Gigabyte AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX gaming OC model to test out, and after spending a few days with it, I actually think this GPU is pretty neat. It is for those who don't want to spend money on the RTX 4080 Super or RTX 4090 and who are worried about space in their PC. Considering this card launched back in 2020, it has aged quite well. On paper, the Gigabyte AMD RX 7900 XTX gaming OC comes with quite an impressive spec list. It includes 24GB of GDDR6 384-bit RAM. It also comes with a 2525MHz boost clock and a 2330MHz game clock. These are slightly overclocked compared to the 2500MHz boost clock and the 2300MHz game clock on the reference card. It packs 6144 stream processors and a 20 gigabits per second memory clock. It also comes with all the bells and whistles you would expect from a modern AMD card, including RDNA 3, which includes enhancements for AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution, not to forget AMD Infinity Cache. The design of this card follows the usual ethos from the brand. It is black with a dark grey cooling plate. It is a hefty GPU that measures 331mm in length, 128mm in width, and is 50mm thick. You'll need a motherboard mount or some sort of support bracket for this card too, given how large it is. Gigabyte recommends having an 850W power supply for this GPU. As a result, it uses 2x8-pin PCIe connectors. It also comes with 2 HDMI 2.1 ports and 2 DisplayPort 2.1 ports. If you have owned a Gigabyte gaming OC card in the past, the design here is quite familiar. There are 3 100mm fans across the top that make up the Waterforce cooling system. The middle one spins in the opposite direction to the 2 side ones, which helps push the heat away from the vapor chamber and out of the back screen cooling cutout. I've always spoken highly about Gigabyte's cooling system, and this one is no different. My only gripe here is that the fans don't include RGB. Given that this is such a high-end and expensive card, you would think Gigabyte would include RGB fans. Sadly, the only RGB you'll find here is on the Gigabyte logo. Of course, you can customize this using the Gigabyte Control Center app. For those who are wondering, the card also includes a BIOS OC and a silent switch. Setting up the card is fairly simple. I already had the Gigabyte motherboard mount in my PC for my current GPU, but if you don't, it is easy to install by removing 2 motherboard screws and replacing them with the taller ones included in the GPU box. These are attached to the metal arm, which acts as the support bracket for the card. You'll then install the mount onto the card and screw the mount onto the motherboard arm. Connect the cables and you're good to go. Given the sheer performance of this card, I was quite excited to benchmark some games. I ran benchmarks across a number of titles, including the latest 3D Mark Steel Nomad test. All of these tests were done with the card in BIOS OC without any adjustments to the performance and voltage through the Gigabyte Control Center. These tests show that this card is definitely a 4K GPU with some incredible performance. The card does struggle slightly when it comes to ray tracing if you're comparing these scores to the nearest RTX card, but it still pushes through most of the games without a hiccup. We then of course have FSR, which further improves the performance. The nice thing about this card is that because it is so powerful, you often don't even need to touch FSR or switch to a higher FSR mode across games. This is also quite a power hungry card. I saw it max out at over 370 watts during benchmarks, which makes sense given its 840 watt power supply requirement. The card also reached a max temperature of 61 degrees and the fan noise was definitely present. The card is notably louder than my RTX 4080 Super. The Gigabyte Waterforce cooling system is still impressive on this card, but the fans do make a noise. So much so that I often had to turn my TV volume up to counter the noise. It sounded like a small plane was flying around me, and when the fans ramp up, they can sound intimidating. Overall, the Gigabyte AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX Gaming OC is an excellent card. Given its age, the card makes for great value in 2024 because you might be able to pick it up slightly cheaper than before. Compared to its closest competition, say the RTX 4090 and the RTX 4080 Super, this card still delivers the best value for money across the three. It does come with some downsides though. First off, the power consumption is quite high. It also struggles a bit with ray tracing. But even the word struggling here means slightly less performance. It won't break the visual experience at all. You can also choose to turn down ray tracing in some cases to improve the performance. I don't know what is next for AMD in 2024 and beyond, but at the moment, this RX 7900 XTX is a great future-proof unit that will last you a good few years. It stands as a peak for AMD thanks to its sheer performance, and it will keep you gaming more and fiddling with settings to improve the performance less. So those are my thoughts on this Gigabyte AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX Gaming OC GPU. What a name. Are you looking to pick one up? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're here, please do consider liking and subscribing and check out my other Gigabyte GPUs on the channel. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find out more information on this specific card. Also be sure to visit glitch.online for more gaming tech news and reviews. Until next time, farewell.